ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, an all-natural skincare company that helps you glow from head to toe. I am a champion for your daily self-care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations between us and special guests about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness.
Here. Everybody dancing. I love that. I know that our watchers, right? Because some are listeners, some are watchers. Our watchers get to see us dance. But every week when we come in, I have the screen so I can see our guest dance too. So it's a whole party over here that you guys got to join and watch. I see you dancing, guests, but I'm not going to say your name yet because it's a surprise. We'll talk about it when you come up. Oh, how are you doing?
I am doing so well. How are you?
I'm good. Grateful. You know, today we're talking about spiritual wellness. And as I was making the graphic and stuff for Instagram, one of the things I was thinking about was letting it go. You know, and sometimes we have workflows, life happens, you get frustrated. And I think about just letting it go and let God. Do I have control over everything? No. You know, so you're frustrated. Okay. What are you going to do with that? You know, and I think about Eileen and how she talks about emotions, and emotions are energy. So what are you going to use it for? And then I think about you with Still Point and the separation. What's yours? What's somebody else's? And then what can you do from there? You know, so it's right on time to talk about spiritual wellness with everything we have going on.
Right.
Yeah.
I could talk about spiritual wellness or environmental wellness because Joe and I took a little time off this weekend for the first time this year, which is a little embarrassing to say as somebody who is in this industry. But, you know, between elder care and all our projects, we just haven't really had time off. So he took time off and we took a couple of days and a local road trip, and we got in some beautiful hiking. I mean, the weather was stunning here this weekend. And, you know, we went, one of my favorite things to do in North Georgia and North Carolina is waterfall hunting. Like, it is one of my favorite things to do, to go on hikes and find waterfalls. And it does go in a lot of categories for me. It goes in the physical wellness. I mean, we logged probably 12 miles this last weekend.
Good job.
And it was so fun. And then the spiritual wellness part, like, there is nothing that induces awe in me like sitting at the foot of a waterfall where you're feeling those ions come off and the power of nature. And so I'm still basking in that and savoring that from this weekend.
Yeah, so, you deserve it.
Right?
I'm glad you guys had a great time.
Well, I have to say, I felt a little guilty because, you know, we're working on volume 2. We've got all these things going, and I heard that inner voice, like, being a little, and then what I tell my clients, right? Sometimes it's very counterintuitive, but when you are the most overwhelmed or you have the most things on your project, that is when you must do self-care. And you must take time out for self-care in order to sustain community care. But we're not taught to do that. Like, we're taught to push through, or we're taught to, and I still feel it rising up. And I've been teaching this for years, and I still have to unravel that conditioning of how we do.
Yeah. And like you said, we hadn't taken a break. All the care, all the reasons for you needing a break and deserving it. Not that we have to deserve rest anyways, right? But yeah, and I definitely hear you on the voice. You asked me about my weekend. I rested this weekend too, and it was the same thing. And it's I'm not going to gag the voice because I don't want to mute any of my voices, right? We're going to talk about voices, and how does she talk about it? Our expert talks about unvoiced confidence, right? It's important to treat your voice a certain type of way, but sometimes this one needs to be a little bit quieter so this one can be louder, and rest has to be in there. So, you know, we don't operate in shame or guilt. So good job resting.
Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I was talking earlier, I was having a meeting and we were talking about working in the business and on the business. And there's a lot, we're talking about spiritual wellness, financial wellness. How do we organize it? Where do you start? So I love having these conversations. Even like last week's, we were talking about heart math and intentionally centering an emotion in your heart, right? And I've been pulling stuff like gratitude, appreciation, joy, patience sometimes, just take a breath and just pull it and then go from there. And it's been really useful.
I was thinking about last week's guest too, when I was hiking, because, she talked about anchoring ease and what did she say? Ease and joy, or ease?
I think it was ease and joy.
And I was really being conscious of feeling that feeling while I was out there, right?
Yeah.
A feeling of awe, the feeling of ease, the feeling of peace. Like, we drove home along the parkway. And so we would stop, we'd pull out at all of the, and, you just see vistas of mountains and mountains, and many times we were the only ones there. So that moment of peace, that moment of vastness, I was really being conscious about anchoring that feeling in.
That's beautiful.
So for when we did more heart math.
Yeah.
It was cool.
And it's huge. When I think about nature and how I enjoy it too, I think about watching the leaves blow on the trees. The other day I was running with the squirrels through the neighborhood, and stuff like that. And it even makes me think about Shalo Glow's logo. Like, look at the birds, look at the trees, and know you're taken care of, and sometimes I have to go outside and look at the trees. They're fine. They're not like, oh no, traffic. They're there and they're taken care of. And I'll wake up tomorrow and they're still there, so I definitely.
That makes me think about Dr. Amanda Kemp and us being on her Mother Tree Network podcast, which is coming out soon.
Yeah. And this week I'm super excited about it. But also super excited to dive more into where spirit can lead you in dreams. And again, the unvoiced confidence that our expert guest is going to talk about today. Are you ready to talk about the definition and bring her up on stage?
I would love to give our listeners the definition. Today, y'all, we're talking about spiritual wellness. Spiritual wellness, as we define it, allows us to be in tune with our spiritual selves. This realm of wellness lets us find meaning in life events and define our individual purpose. It can be defined through various factors, including religious faith, values, ethics, and morals. Regardless of whether you believe in a particular religious faith, there is always something to be learned about how you see yourself in the world.
So important, especially when I think about, and we talk about this all the time, what part sticks out to you? And it's these specific events, because we've had a lot of stuff go on. So even the bad things, if I believe they work in my favor, it's easier for me to center and take a deep breath and remove myself a little bit from the frustrating details or the details that I feel like might off-center me, So I'm excited to see about, again, what our guest has to say about different details and where spirit leads us.
Right? You ready to call her up?
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, I'm excited. I want to get in this. I have so many questions. I want to get into this conversation.
Me too. So our expert guest today, guys, is Debbie Wiesman. And using the profound power of dream work to reveal unvoiced confidence has been the multi-year study of Debbie Spector Wiesman. She is committed to helping others find their voice through her private The Dream Coach programs and best-selling books. Her acclaimed podcast and now radio program, Dream Power Radio and TV show, The Dream Power Show, and TV show, The Dream Power Show, have reached thousands, where she instructs on how to understand and use dreams for greater self-awareness and finding hidden answers to unsolved problems. Please welcome to the stage, Debbie Wiesman. Hi.
Hi there. Thank you for having me here. This is lucky. You got me in the mood with that dancing at the beginning, and
I saw your moves.
Talking about nature, and I am so lucky. I live out in the country, and I could look. I'm talking to you through a laptop, and I could look above it and see these beautiful rolling fields with spring flowers just coming up. And it's wonderful.
And it's interesting that you say that. I've known for a long time that I've loved nature. But it was really when I went back to work after COVID and I started working at Topgolf, in the green of the golf course that we would play the games on, right? Was like, wow, I really actually need to look at green. So I love that you can look at green from where you're working. That's one of the things in my dream house too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're talking about where spirit can lead you and spiritual wellness. Can you tell our listeners a little bit more about your expertise in this unvoiced confidence that you help people tap into?
Well, sure. I want to start off, though, with the philosophy that I basically have, which came from one of the great dream workers of the late 20th century, early 21st century, Jeremy Taylor, who said, all dreams reflect our inner creativity and our ability to face and solve life's problems. And when you look at it from that standpoint, dreams are us. And when we can access them, we learn so much about ourselves and about how we make our way in the world and how we can, like I said, solve the problems that we have in our daily lives, that where the answers elude us during our waking hours, we can find the answers in our nighttime hours. So
love that. I love I've always been a believer in that we're solving problems or we're working while we're sleeping, because I wake up and sometimes know I've been working, right? I have a curiosity, Debbie, about when you work with folks, like, are you, because I have friends that are in this industry, and I've different ways that people interpret dreams. How do you do it? Like when you work with a client, how do you do it? Walk us through it.
Okay, well, they're very, very individualistic. So you can have a dream about trees. I can have a dream about trees. Shannon can have a dream about trees. It could be the identical events in the dream, but we will have totally different understandings of it based on our own life, where we are in our life, what's going on, how we feel about trees. You know, you might say, I hate trees. You know, you say, no, I love trees. And that makes all the difference in the world. So when I meet with people, first of all, mostly at the beginning, when I first meet with a client, use dreams sort of as a diagnostic tool to help get down to what is it that is keeping you stuck, or what is it that's keeping you from following what you really want to do, or finding your confidence, or rediscovering your confidence, or whatever it is. Because quite frankly, people come to see me when there's a problem. You know, they don't come for, hey, things are great and life is wonderful. You know, no, there's something going on. So I will help them understand what's going on. And I don't tell them what the dream means, because it's very important for the dreamer to figure that out. So my job as a coach is to ask questions, to really dive down deep into, you know, what the dream means. You know, we dream in symbols, you know, what the symbols mean, how the person relates to it, what's going on, more, and even probably more important than anything else, the emotion of the dream, you know, the emotion of what you were when you were dreaming, as well as how you feel about the dream, because that gives so many clues into helping figure out what it is. And, you know, it could be a lengthy process of really diving down, especially if it's a complicated dream, to really get down to what it does it mean. And finally, that person will have their, we like to call the aha moment. Oh, that's what's going on here. This is what my mind is telling me what's going on. You know, and sometimes, you know, if a person's really, 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 really stuck, there's a phrase that, you know, a lot of dream workers use, where I could say, if it were my dream. So I can give an opinion without saying this is what it means. This is just, if I was having this dream, given everything that is, you know, that I think about, this is what I think it is. And the dreamer may look at that and say, no, that has no relationship to me. Or it might spark something in that person saying, oh, well, yeah, you know, that kind of makes sense. I think I could go there. And so we talk about it until the person has that aha moment. That's when dealing with a person I'm dealing with in a session. Now, there are all kinds of ways to look at dreams. Sometimes dreams don't need any interpretation at all. If you're having a dream about lying out in the sun and feeling that warmth, you may wake up feeling all warm and fuzzy, and that was the intention. That's all it is. Something else going on. So it very much is dependent on the individual dream and the individual person. But there are many ways to look at it.
So what would you say if somebody, I feel like since COVID and quarantine, right, I haven't been having a lot of dreams. I think some I could record and I might be able to do a better job at that when I do have them. But if somebody comes to you and they say, I'm not dreaming, Debbie, I haven't had a dream for 6 months, what would you say?
Well, I'd say actually you are dreaming. You're not remembering your dreams.
Right.
But you do dream. Everybody dreams.
Every night.
3 to 9 dreams a night, depending on your sleep cycle. And that's really the key. It's funny you mentioned COVID, because there was kind of a, resurgence and interest in dreams during COVID, because people found themselves sleeping more. They didn't have to get up early to go to work. They were home, and they were actually sleeping more. And because they didn't have to rush out in the morning to get to work, they were in a better position to remember their dreams. And very interestingly enough, most people who did remember their dreams for the first time during COVID really were having more nightmares, because they were all COVID related. There were a lot of people who had dreams about bugs, and dreams about, not being able to escape, and, being closed in. All of those things are related to the feelings that everybody was having during that time. But it could be that, COVID affected your sleep cycle. So you're not remembering dreams, or there are many reasons why it happens.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I was interviewing a dream expert about a year ago on my podcast, and he was very concerned, because he said that we are suffering a dream drought because of most people not having a good night's sleep. So the key is to make sure you're having a good night's sleep. So
what happens? So if we have a dream drought, is the next step, okay, so people in their lives are possibly not coming to as many solutions, those unconscious solutions and the unconscious things that we already have the answer to, we're coming to those less if we're dreaming less? What is the consequence of dreaming less?
Well, like I said, we all dream. You're just not remembering it. And it could be that you're having a dream that enables you to solve a problem, and you don't remember the dream, but you wake up feeling like something has changed. It could be, there's that old expression, sleep on it. Where did that come from? It came from people dreaming and remembering their dreams and finding solutions from doing that. So I'd say if you're having a dream drought, and everybody does, I've had dream droughts. It happens all the time. Right. First of all, give yourself a break. Don't stress out about it. Like, oh my God, what's happened? Because that's only going to perpetuate the problem. But one thing you could do is if you keep a dream journal, and people who are serious about remembering their dreams ought to be keeping a dream journal. But even if you're not remembering your dreams, write down the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning. And if you do that on a regular basis, that kind of kickstarts your brain wanting to believe that dreams are important. You need to remember them. And that could give you insights, because that may be a reflection of a dream that you had that you may not remember, that's giving you that thought.
I love that. I love that technique and tip, Debbie, because I go through periods just like where I remember and I'm really good at writing them down, and then I can't remember diddly. I know I dreamed, but I don't remember what they were. So I like that about just writing down the first thing you think about. Yeah. I want to circle back around to nightmares, because I have a couple of questions regarding nightmares. Because when I was a kid, I had nightmares. And so is there a difference for dreams for kids to adults? That's one of my questions, thinking about that. And if you've got kiddos, because a lot of our listeners are moms or caregivers or siblings, if you've got kiddos that are having nightmares, do you have tips and techniques for helping them with nightmares?
Okay, well, we'll start with the children first. It's really important for the parent to soothe the child, make them understand that it's okay to have these scary thoughts, that, it is a dream and you're here and, mom's here, dad's here, and, we're hugging you, we're loving you. And it gives them a realization that, that scary thing that happened isn't going to come back to them when they're awake. And the most important thing is just to keep talking about it, to help them understand, because it's a growing phase. A lot of kids will have nightmares when they're going into a new development stage. When a child is going through, that part where they feel more independent. I'm not a child expert, so I don't have the specifics of all of that. But when a child is going through that stage where they're starting to feel more independent, they may have nightmares that want them to go back to the baby stage where, mom is taking care of everything for me, or dad's taking care of everything for me. And, I'm not doing things by myself. And because it's a scary thing to move from one stage to another. And that's a lot of times that's it. And we're talking here about what I would call normal nightmares, which are part of development. I'm not talking about a person who's under, abuse or that kind of thing. That's a whole different area, and that's actually above my pay grade, because that's where a psychologist would come.
Right. You would need to get them therapy. Yeah, mine were triggered by. I laugh when I think about it, but because it had to be so mild back then. But I'm very sensitive to images and media, so I had watched the Mud Monster on regular TV. Probably back in late 70s. So, it was as mild as could be. I should just look it up one day just to make sure. But I had nightmares about that Mud Monster for 2 years. Like, it was not. And then I learned very quickly. It's a long time, right? But I learned very quickly, even now as an adult, like, I have to watch what I intake, especially with media, because I can read almost anything and my brain will filter how it comes in. But if I see it, especially if I see it on a big screen, or I see it and there's that music and all my senses are engaged, like, I don't do scary movies. I don't do psychological dramas, because that stuff will give me nightmares for a long time.
Yeah. But you bring up an important point, because it's all about self-awareness. You've come as soon as you understood that was what was going on, you were able to correct it in your conscious mind. Well, it's the same thing with dreams. Dreams help us get that awareness that we don't have in our daytime life, because in our nighttime life, it's our subconscious giving us these images, and the subconscious is really our unfiltered self. The subconscious is not bombarded with all the thoughts that ring in our heads all during the day. Then during the daytime, we think something like 90,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative. We don't realize we're doing this. Sometimes we'll hear that, we'll literally hear that voice in our head. But most of the time, that voice in our head is just running nonstop all the time. We're not even aware of it. It's there. When we become aware, that's when we can look back and say, oh, do I really believe that? That's really kind of a silly thing. That doesn't make sense. I don't need to do that. And once we become aware of it, we can correct that and move on and say, no, we don't need that. I don't need that in my life anymore. So you were talking about nightmares.
And I think that that's a lot with fear in general, right? When you look at it and you deal with it and you process it, then we get better.
Absolutely. And dreams can help us with our fears too, because again, these scary things. I like to say that a nightmare can be the best thing that ever happened to you, because in my way of looking at it, because we dream all the time, we're getting we're having dreams. And I like to say that if we're not paying attention to our dreams, we get a nightmare because our subconscious is saying, you're not listening to all these kind of nice dreams where you're having every night. So the only way I could get you to pay attention is to scare you. Because most people will say, if they don't remember any dreams, they do remember nightmares because they are so scary and they are so shocking to the system. So if you look at that nightmare and do what you would do with any kind of dream interpretation, write it down as many details as you can about it, look at it, and see if you can find the places where you can come to the conclusion, why am I feeling that emotion when this comes out? Why am I doing this? And just to give you an example, one of the common nightmares is a chase dream where you're being chased by something. Sometimes you know what you're being chased by, sometimes you don't.
Snakes when I was a kid.
Yes.
Snakes.
Just saying. Yes, some people have dreams where they're scared about snakes, but snakes can also be a sign of wisdom. So it all depends on how you look at it. But a lot of times, one way to confront the nightmare, especially if you're having a repetitive chase dream, is to, if you can, get yourself lucid enough in the dream where you can just turn around and say, who are you and why are you chasing me? And very often you'll find that it's benign. Maybe the person is chasing because they want to give you a message and you're running away from it because maybe it's a message you weren't ready to hear or aren't ready to hear, and you get it. Or maybe the person's chasing you because, they really want to give you a hug, but you're going away because, that kind of emotion, you're not ready for that kind of emotion. But very often just simply turning around and facing what it is that's chasing you is enough to get you some kind of resolution about the dream. And the other thing is just, this is important for any kind of dream, but nightmares in particular, talk to somebody about the dream. It doesn't have to be, a dream expert like me, although talk to me, I'll be very happy to talk to you about it. But in the process of just talking it out, that also will maybe give you some insights that you wouldn't have if you're just thinking about it and thinking about the scary part.
Right.
What's beyond the scary part? What else is in that nightmare that maybe you're not paying attention to because you're only focused on the scary part. So like I said, look at the dream in detail and ask yourself, what does this thing mean to me? Why am I having this? What is the emotion? Is it fear? Is it, anger? Is it, whatever other negative emotion you might come up with? Take a good look at that. And that's also going to help. Another thing you can do, which is something if you have difficulty, remembering dreams, is to what we like to call a dream recreation. And you can do this in your daytime life. Just find a nice quiet place to sit down, relax, almost like you're getting into a meditative state, and ask yourself, how would I like this dream to end? You can change it. You can, in that state, you can change it and come to make it, instead of a nightmare, make it a dream that does service to you, that gives you a sense of peace, that gives you, at least the direction of an answer that you're looking for. And that makes a big difference.
And when is this that you can sit in a restful meditative state and change it? After a recurring nightmare or just in general?
Well, after any kind of nightmare, but especially if you're having a recurring nightmare, because any kind of dream, whether it's a recurring nightmare or just a recurring dream, means that there's something in your life that's unresolved. And those are ways you can help figure out what it is.
Debbie, some of my favorite, I'm going to shift us just a little bit because I was thinking about our title and see where spirit can take you. Yeah. And some of my favorite dreams that I've had when I've been in retreat or I've been on a spiritual journey or, I was thinking about what you said earlier and I was like, oh, I get more rest when I'm there. Like I relax and I am getting a full night's sleep. But I also think often when you're in ceremony or when you are set up for these dreams, and I would love your opinion on it. Like spirit, God, however you want to talk about it, can talk to us through our dreams.
Absolutely. I got into dream work late in life. So maybe about, 5 or 6 years before I, became seriously interested in dreams, I went on a spiritual retreat and had this dream that was really life affirming. Basically,
hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups, really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off. The oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. The story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So
yes,
yay.
Tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, I work with individual coaching clients. I work in community classes and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. Especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
In the dream, it was a rebirth. I literally felt like I was being, sucked through, the birth canal and being reborn. And I had this feeling of peace and of joy and just, feeling like there's so many possibilities out there if I paid attention to the possibilities instead of, being blind to them. And yes, those are the kind of dreams that you can have that are, and again, that needed no interpretation. It just was. I just had to, go with it and just feel it. And a lot of times you can just feel a dream. Like one of the techniques I learned early on when I was learning to be a dream life coach was just this sense of enveloping yourself in the dream, just sitting, in a quiet place and, maybe picking an image from the dream that was very affirming to you and just embody it. Sit there and just let it wash over you till you could actually literally feel it in your bones. And so many, changes can happen this way. Little changes, big changes. Again, it depends on the dream and the person and what's going on. But
what I'm hearing you say, Debbie, is to embody it, to really take it from our head and what we're thinking about it, and to really let us feel it throughout our whole body. Like to take the time to be intentional, to let it flow through you.
Exactly. I mean, just like, the way you feel when you're dancing and how that brings that positive energy into you. It's the same type of thing, except you're doing it with your dream.
So What's striking to me is how similar it is to other conversations, and other tools and things that we use. I was expecting dreams and the way you think about it to be different, or maybe not have as much control, or not be intentional about it, because I feel like I knew that you can think about it a certain way, but it's just interesting to me how it overlaps, because it seems really simple. I usually think about dreams as being more complicated and layered, even though some people can interpret them.
Yeah, well, sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But just think it's a third of our life that we spend sleeping, and
Right.
that time, that that inner life is so important.
Yeah.
To pay attention to it, because we learn so many things about ourselves that gets back down to that belief in self-awareness.
Right.
It's one way to access it.
So when you talk about confidence and unvoiced confidence, can you go more into that and how that corresponds with dreams?
Sure. I actually came up with this expression about 2 years ago. I was asked to write a chapter in a book called Amazing Women, It's Your Time to Emerge. And I knew I wanted to write something about dreams. And, I wasn't exactly sure, what it was going to be. And I decided to do a dream incubation, which is where you program your mind to dream about something specific.
I've been trying to do that ever since that episode of The Jeffersons. I'm listening to you, Debbie.
Yeah. So, I won't go into a lot of detail about it, but basically you meditate on something that you are looking for. You frame it in a question that is just a very simple question. Mine was, what would be a good topic for this chapter? Very simple. Wrote down some ideas about, what it could be, like do a little journaling about it before I went to bed, and then put that little piece of paper with the question, what do I want this chapter to be about? Put that under my pillow, went to bed, and I had this thought that one of the things that I gained the most personally out of paying attention to my dreams was a renewed sense of self-confidence. Before I embraced dream work, I was a very quiet, very shy person. I didn't feel confident, even though I'd done a lot of things in my life. I'd written, some best-selling books, and, was involved with a company with did movie production. I'd done many things, so it wasn't like I was just
unaccomplished.
Sitting there, unaccomplished.
Right.
But I didn't have that inner confidence. It was just I kind of would make excuses. It was because of this or that person, or something else happened, and I didn't really take it in. And because I found my sense of renewed confidence, it was like an unvoiced confidence that had been within me. And I started, to think about it. I said, well, okay, where do I go with that? And it got me thinking that we're actually all born confident. And just as an example of what I mean by that is, go back to when you were like, 9, 10 months old, and you were just starting to walk. And remember, you would get up on your feet, and maybe you would take a step and you would fall down. Well, what'd you do? You laughed. You probably laughed. It was like, this is fun. This is kind of a good thing. But you kept at it, and you kept at it because you had that inner confidence that you're going to do it. It may take a little while, may take some practice, but in the end, you're going to succeed. And go up a couple of years to where you're starting to feed yourself, and maybe your mom's holding the spoon, and then you grab it from your mom, you take it away, you shove it in your mouth, and maybe half of it got off over your face, the other half got on the bib, but you were like, yeah, this is fun. I like doing this. And again, you knew deep down in your soul that with time, with practice, you're going to get it because you had that inner confidence. Well, what happened? After that, life happened. and you start interacting with other people and things go on, and maybe somebody in a very benign passing way said something that you took to mean that I'm not good enough, or I'm clumsy, or I'm ugly, or I'm unlovable, right. Whatever it is that happened in your life, in the course of your life. And those things built upon themselves, and then they get reinforced by other things that happen in your life. And all of a sudden, what happened to that confidence? It's not there anymore.
Right.
Well, you can use your dreams to help you uncover that unvoiced confidence. By using your dreams to help you realize those things that are holding you back. And that will get you to realize, well, when I was 5 years old and, I spilt milk on the floor, my mom yelled at me. It didn't mean that I was clumsy. It just meant that I spilled milk on the floor. That's all it was. That's all that happened. When you take the emotion out of it, that limiting belief goes away.
Right.
And the more you do that make a list of, whatever it is that is holding you back. And when you get to the bottom of it and realize where it comes from, little by little, it gets you to chip away at the things that are keeping that confidence deep down. All of a sudden you realize that confidence starts to rise up and rise up and rise up. And then next thing you know, it's like, hey, I want to go climb that mountain. I can do that. I want to start
have that radio show and TV show. And
15 years ago, if you told me I'd be speaking with you, or I'd be on a podcast, or I'd be doing this coaching, I would have laughed. Are you kidding? Me? I can't do that. But
so what has that been like for you now on this other side?
It's wonderful. It's, seeing the possibilities there. It's not like it's all been perfect. And, I started this business and, they've been millions and millions and millions of dollars. No, It doesn't quite work that way. It's difficult. It takes time. There are obstacles. But having that feeling that it's possible and I can do it makes all the difference in the world, because that helps promote the persistence that's needed. In anything you do, you need persistence, and the persistence stays there. When you believe you can do it, you just go from there.
Absolutely.
You talking about that, Debbie? I was teaching my Radical Self and Community Care class on Tuesday with Dr. Collins, and it came up. We were talking about complacency, but it fit into this discussion because we were talking about, we talk about baby steps can get it, incremental steps can get us into trouble and then get us out of trouble. And then somebody brought up baby steps, and then somebody brought up the reality of what baby steps are, just like you're talking about with this confidence. Baby steps are not like measured in order. They are like, if you've ever seen a kid trying to walk, like they're flailing, they're sometimes taking little steps, they're sometimes taking big steps, they're falling down, they're laughing, they're getting back up. And I think about that in relation to business, and I think about it in relation to trying anything new, right? It is, we often think as adults, it's got to go a certain way in our head. Like it's got to be A plus B plus C, and the reality is it's sometimes all over the map when we're creating something new and magical.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a time in my life where I felt I had to be perfect. Everything I had to do had to be done correctly. And if I did it wrong, that was like the worst possible thing in the world. And, I've now come to the belief that, no, we're all human. We all make mistakes. And, the best thing to do is to just acknowledge it and say, yeah, I made a mistake here. And as long as it's not like, life, like I'm not killing somebody, nothing drastic, but just the day-to-day things that happen. Yeah. It's very easy to say, yeah, I made a mistake. I'm going to go on.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of my biggest things that I love about Women Connected in Wisdom and all the different things we talk about, right? Because when you go to school and we're in this system and you have to learn it a certain way to get a grade based on what this one person says in this organization, what we talk about in the conversations is that it does have that effect on the way that you feel like, oh, I have to do it right. Or like your work says, I might get paralyzed in that fear of not doing it. But when you look at your dreams and see the answers that you might have already, that your body and your subconscious and God is trying to tell you, right? And then you look at what you feel like is stopping you and you're like, well, wait, this isn't actually accurate. I could take this off. For me, what I see there is that everything that you take off the list of things that you thought was stopping you gives you more confidence into the I can do this, right? And then the last thing I was going to say, Christine, it reminds me of us doing our audiobook, right? And Sino, the engineer, was like, you guys did good. Just, if you messed up a line, you just said it again. And I have music practice. Christine is like a natural audiobook narrator, right? But we were able to just jump back in and fix it. When I know sometimes people struggle with just being able to go and do it again and try again. So I love that analogy that you ladies are using.
Right. Or even just starting to do something or attempting to do something that you haven't done before. Mm-hmm. I had a perfect example right this afternoon. My husband and I have a film video production company, post-production company. Okay. And we're actually in the process of finishing up a movie that's been sort of like a passion project. We have no money, no budget for this film. So it's just us doing it. So I started to learn how to do better video editing than the simple cuts that I do for the TV show, which is just very simple, very easy kind of thing. And this afternoon I had to do some sound editing, which I had really never done before. I kind of knew conceptually the steps, but hadn't really done it. But again, it was just that feeling of, okay, it may take me a while. It may take me a lot longer than somebody who does it all the time, knows how to do it, but I'll get it done.
Absolutely.
And I did.
Yeah. And next time it'll be shorter. And now you know a little bit more than you knew before.
Right.
Yeah. I love that. So,
and also it was also a confidence boost because it's like, hey, I can do something I never knew how to do before.
Yeah. Yeah. That was me running the meeting for our editors. We just met with our editing team for the first time for volume 2 and never had a meeting with Connected and Wisdom Press editors before, but we got in there, did a great job, and now we're on to the next one. I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So every week, Debbie, we do a wisdom in action and talking about the focus, what we're doing that week in the dimension of wellness. So this week for spiritual wellness, what is your wisdom in action?
My wisdom in action is, I'd want to tie it back to what you started with at the beginning, is just really enjoying nature because it's spring here and, things are just starting to come to life again. To really have that sense of gratitude and practice gratitude. I mean, I'm so lucky to be here where I am. And so I'd like to say to anybody, take time out to practice gratitude in whatever it is that works for you. Maybe it's the location where you are. Maybe you're lucky enough to be in a place where you can enjoy nature. Right. Or, gratitude for your family or for what you do or for just being alive. Mm-hmm. That just, again, fills your soul with that energy and that love and that joy that we all need to feel fulfilled.
Yes.
I love that. Shannon, what are you doing? What's your wisdom in action this week? Or your
I have 2. Okay. I have 2 that I wrote down and they're kind of, I see them as similar, right? And I love what you said, Debbie. You said # look beyond the scary part. Right. And for me, that's huge in spiritual wellness. And I'll give you the second one and we could talk about it. # pay attention to the possibilities. And that's what I feel like I've been working through as I went back to work. We talked about Topgolf and me looking at the green, right, into Papado and now into my own 3 businesses. When those frustrating parts and the obstacles come up that you said, right, Debbie? Okay, if I am a person of faith, and I believe that everything is working in my favor. How do I look beyond the scary part and pay attention to the possibilities and see how this could work in my favor? See what this is trying to teach me. See what I need to do, what I'm responsible for, and what is the part that I should let go. So those are my action steps.
Ooh, I love those.
Yes, thank you.
I think I'm going to do #RememberMyDreams, because oftentimes one of the tricks I've found is if I ask myself to remember my dreams, often I remember them. Like if I have the intention to remember them. And I liked your trick about writing down the first thing you think about.
That was
so good. That's going to be mine is going to be like pulling out my journal because it hasn't been out for a while. So and just a very practical thing, we are women connected in wisdom. I used to always keep it by my bedside, but I was thinking about this while you were talking, Debbie. I'm going to keep it in my bathroom because the first thing I do is get up and go to the bathroom. And so I think what I'm going to do is set it on my bookshelf in my bathroom with a pen. And there we go.
What about the water for the paper? Yeah. That doesn't affect it?
Well,
I guess books are always in bathrooms, though, aren't they?
Yeah, I have a bookshelf in my bathroom. I'm one of those people because I have books in there, and I'm just I'm just going to set it on there.
I like that idea.
I say whatever works.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I'm working on. Well, Debbie, before we say goodbye, this has been such a good conversation. Where can folks find you? And we will put all this in the show notes, but give people an idea if they want to work with you or what you have coming up. Where can they find you?
Sure. My website is thedreamcoach.net. All one word, thedreamcoach.net. I love email. So if you want to send me an email, I'm at debbie@thedreamcoach.net. I offer a complimentary dream discovery call for anybody who's interested in working with me, so you can get a sense of what I can do to help you. And I'm on social media. I'm a Dream with Debbie on Facebook, The Dream Coach on LinkedIn and Instagram. And that's where you can find me. And also my podcast, Dream Power Radio, which is on weekly. Google Dream Power Radio to find it. It's on all the podcast platforms.
That's awesome. And we'll put all that in the show notes. And you also said you had a special gift for our listeners, your ebook, 101 Dream Dates, How to Say I Love You to the Most Important Person in Your Life, You.
Yes.
How do they access that?
Okay, that is on my website. There's a tab that says 101 Dream Dates. You just click on that, scroll down to where it says,
awesome.
Download it, and it's there. And it's a fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie, for that. Our listeners love resources, and we will put all this in the show notes so they can find you. And thank you for this conversation about dreams today and seeing where spirit can take you. This has been delightful.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm going to go out and do some dancing now.
Yes.
Oh,
thank you, Debbie. So nice to talk to you.
Oh, so good.
Yes.
So good.
And what she said, we sleep a lot. That's a big part of your life. So I would love
Hopefully we sleep a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I sleep. I want to make sure I sleep. We're adding it into the schedule. We're going to be sustainable. And yes, I hear you. Hopefully we sleep a lot. Right? And, I love using downtime effectively. So if I can make it more effective, then that's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
I love that. So many things to think and dream about. Anything our listeners need to know before we wrap the show for this week?
Oh, I think the last time that you asked me that, I said, you know what, guys? It might close. The window of opportunity is going to close if you want to join us for volume 2, right? And what we know is that the door is still open. So we do have a few more spaces. If you would like to join us for volume 2, you have a resource and a story that goes into the dimension of wellness. Again, a lot of our authors ask, do I fit? How do I fit? Everybody fits, right? Your life is set up in these different categories. And so we could talk about the resource that you have and how we can lift it up and support your voice. If you want to join us for volume 2, please email us at cwpress@womenconnectedinwisdom.com, and we'll see which volume fits you best and go from there.
I love that. I also want to give a shout out to the dates because we are already in May. So y'all, we will be opening up our community, Women Connected in Wisdom. We're going to be opening it up at the end of the month for new members if you want to join us.
Yes.
And that's going to be on the 21st. And you'll be hearing more about it. And you can also go to womenconnectedinwisdom.com and find out more. But just to save that date, because it's only going to be open for about 4 or 5 days. And then we'll close it for probably another 6 months.
Yes. And I'm super excited about the different categories that we said we're going to have. And I don't know if we've ever gone into it on the show. So to give you a rundown real quick, we're going to talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness, right? That's connected in wellness. Then, we're going to talk about business. That's going to be the connected in business. That's what you've seen. If you follow us on social media, you've seen the bio classes and the chapter classes. We'll talk about a speaker one page if you want to be a paid speaker and different things that'll help you on that level. And then we have connected in action. That's going to be like our mastermind. If you've heard the other 113 episodes, you've heard Christine and I talk about Manifestation Monday, and we've been part of that group for the past 5 years. What we know is that only a certain amount of people can talk in an hour, right? So our group is closed, but we want to open up one for you ladies. And so we're going to have a connected in action, and that's going to be a mastermind where we talk about our wins, our goals, and our challenges, and share stories and resources to make sure that we have what we need in life and in business.
Right. I'm so excited about what's coming up this spring and this fall, because, we need to probably save the date for our conference in October. We just have so much fun stuff coming up. I am so grateful to be connected to you, my friend. And as always, these conversations and bringing on these expert guests, it's just grateful.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, we will be back live at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week. In the meantime, don't forget,
be well,
be wise, and be whole. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.